Well, good afternoon. I'm Jesse,
Hi, everybody. I'm Bria.
and we are glad to be able to bring a small series to you guys called the Why series.
Just a little bit of backstory. I am an American. I was born in Texas, but at the age of 13, my family moved to Ukraine to serve as missionaries, and I ended up living there for nearly 30 years, over half my life. So there is some history here. We're not just some random Americans who are doing videos about Ukraine. I have history with Ukraine. Jesse, now, ever since meeting me, has been very diligently studying the history of Ukraine and the geopolitical history between Ukraine and Russia. We have served many times on the front lines with Ukrainian soldiers, using music and taking supplies and stuff. So there's some backstory here and some history with Ukraine.
We found that a lot of Americans they're sort of befuddled with all of the news. They heard tons of news in 2022, maybe some news from 2014, and they come up to us and say, what on earth is going on? Why is this happening? We know that the war didn't start in 2022. Often that rhetoric is used, right? We hear, oh, well, Russia started the war in 2022, but it didn't, right?
Right. Russia actually invaded in 2014 when it took Crimea and then invaded on the east side of Ukraine as well.
So we're going to go through some things really fast today. Let's talk about why did Russia invade Ukraine? And the first reason, Russia does not accept Ukraine as a sovereign state or as a people group. Putin and the Russian leadership, as well as normal citizens, don't believe that Ukraine is its own country. In fact, in 2008, Putin even told then President Bush that Ukraine wasn't a country. They believe that it is still Russia, but that it has broken away. It is illegitimate. It is artificial. So that in 1991, when the Soviet Union fell and Ukraine announced its independence and became its own country, that's a sham, according to Russian figures.
And it's very ironic because historically, what is now modern day Ukraine actually existed before what is now modern day Russia. But Russians have changed the rhetoric, changed the narrative, and they believe that Ukrainians came out of Russians, and so therefore there is no such thing as Ukrainians. They are, in essence, second-class Russians and are to be brought back into submission to Russia, and if they refuse, that's when the basically scorched earth policy comes in. And if you refuse to be a part of Russia, then we'll just kill all of you.
Yeah, exactly right. It's interesting to note that even the predecessors, the cities that made up Kyiv, which is the now capital of Ukraine, that was around while Moscow was still a forest. It hadn't even been populated yet. So in history, Kyiv and the Kievan Rus was a thing before Moscow even existed. So along with sovereign statehood, they also believe that then, of course, Ukrainians aren't people as well, that they are artificial and illegitimate, basically that Ukrainians are Russian. That's what they claim. But they have betrayed their core identity as Russians, which is maybe to us Americans, it's like, you can go live wherever you want. You can be whoever you want. But to them, their core identity of being Russian and accepting their Russianness is nearly a religious betrayal. And basically, because of that betrayal, Ukrainians are Nazis and fascists, and therefore they have given in to Western progressivism, Western liberalism, and have betrayed the traditional Russian roots. And therefore, as Bria said, they should be destroyed. So Russia does not accept the state or the personhood, the peoplehood of Ukraine. Next up, Putin believed the circumstances were favorable to Russia, meaning Russia's invasion. The circumstances surrounding the West, the circumstances surrounding China, the circumstances surrounding his own military. Basically, the West was coming out of a very fractured environment. Brexit had just happened. Power had just changed hands in Germany, and NATO was disagreeing on how to go about doing certain things, and they couldn't get along with each other very well. And Russia looked at that and said, hey, they're weak. They're never going to be able to band together and be able to defend Ukraine. America, totally distracted with domestic and their own foreign policy. China was a major issue. They were dealing with the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah, basically, Putin believed that the West wouldn't care because they had enough of their own problems. So he believed he could get away with it.
And he believed that the other powerful authoritarian regime that was President Xi in China would come and support them with their needs. And he believed that he had this really strong military, just like the rest of the world believed. So he believed that the circumstances were favorable. And finally, he really wants a legacy. He wants to be a significant person in Russian history, like a Catherine the Great or Peter the Great.
Or a Stalin or a Lenin.
Exactly. They are memorialized, even for all of the butchery and dysfunction and the hardship that the people of Russia endured under those regimes. They are still held in this strange reverence. And I just had a really short quote here. Dr. Thomas Graham of Yale University, he said this: "What have the great czars done? They have expanded Russian territory." That is how you get a legacy in Russian leadership, is that you help or you are the catalyst of Russian expansionism. And so Putin has invaded other countries before. Whenever he has invaded anyone, his approval ratings have gone up, which is obviously a societal problem.
That speaks to a lot of the rhetoric that we hear a lot among Americans of this is just one man's war. If somebody just took out Putin, all of this would go away. It wouldn't, because this is a national problem. This is a societal ideology of Russians that we as Americans cannot understand. This goes back thousands of years of the need of the Russian people to conquer other peoples, to, as Jesse was saying, expand their empire. And the fact that Putin's approval rating goes up anytime he invades and brutalizes another country tells you all you need to know about the mindset of the Russian public in general.
So we're going to be talking more about some of these things. Please join us for the next video we do.
Let us know in the comments what questions you might have. Jesse follows a lot of really good informational sources on Ukraine, both from within Ukraine and outside of Ukraine. So we'll link to those in the description if you're interested in learning more about what's going on in Ukraine. But let us know in the comments what you would like us to address in future videos as to the whys and some of the disinformation surrounding Russia's war on Ukraine. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.